What's up? What's going on? Still working on the DIY MFA. So I had a fucking point about 10 minutes ago. I'm walking around in the parking lot about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I went to sleep on the sidewalk. Stuff is bad. Stuff is bad right now in my life, my personal life, my romantic life. And it seems like there's a lot of systemic issues going on. I had a point. Listen, despite the point, we always start with a story nugget, which is a premise and an idea, and it doesn't matter to me if you get them mixed up. She laid down on a bed. Idea, sleep issues drove her to a place of raw energy. And I think the point I was going to make is that inner critic has got to go. Look at this. There's real quick. That works. Story nuggets work, but you get one that definitely works. You've got two or three paragraphs. She laid down on the bed, the old mattress sighing under her weight, like it had been waiting for her all evening. The room was dim, lit only by the faint orange glow of a street lamp, bleeding through half-closed blinds. Sleep had been her enemy for weeks. Restless nights twisting into fractured hours of staring at the ceiling, mind racing through half-formed worries and phantom itches. Tonight felt different. The exhaustion had sharpened into something feral, a low hum beneath her skin that refused to settle. As her eyes drifted shut, the familiar pull of insomnia didn't drag her into frustration. Instead, it unraveled. The bed beneath her seemed to soften then dissolve, carrying her downward into a pulsing void, not sleep, but a raw electric place where every nerve sang. Energy crackled around her like static before a storm, vivid, unfiltered, alive. Colors bled into sounds. Her heartbeat synced with distant thunder, and the weight of her tired body lifted, replaced by a wild, untamed current. Here in this liminal surge of pure vitality, her sleep issues hadn't defeated her. They cracked open a door to something primal and exhilarating. She didn't drift off, she ignited. She sank deeper into the raw energy state, every sense amplified and rewired, as if her insomnia had burned away the filters between her and the world's hidden pulse. The bed was gone, yet she felt held, warm, insistent pressure wrapping her limbs like living silk. Isn't that kind of weird how I just said I had a point? I just said the inner critic must go away. All of a sudden there was a story nugget that worked. All of a sudden there was one. Now, let's explore the fiction mechanics and dynamics here. We've written something, let's see what we got. Here's one way to do that. Let's look at the mechanics and dynamics. Let's look at the structure. Let's look at the oomph. Let's look at how this thing is moving forward in time, in place, in emotion, in growth, things like that. The fiction operates on a simple but potent premise. Chronic sleep deprivation isn't a flaw, it's a key. When exhaustion reaches a critical threshold, it doesn't just break the mind, it pries open a seam between ordinary consciousness and the raw veil, a fluid, energetic substrate underlying reality itself. We've got some mechanics here. The threshold. Normal sleep attempts fail because her mind is too wired, too full of static. Instead of descending into rest, the accumulated debt of unrest compresses into a singularity of pressure. Lying down on the bed acts as a ritual anchor. The moment her body surrenders, eyes closing, muscles releasing, the pressure releases sideways rather than downward, catapulting her awareness into the raw veil while her physical form remains in a deep, protective trance on the mattress. She isn't dreaming, she's tuning. Sensory translation. The veil doesn't have fixed geography. It is a pure potential shaped by the entrance nervous system. Every sensation from the waking world gets transmuted and amplified. Fatigue becomes fuel. The heavier her eyelids felt in reality, the more electric and buoyant her form becomes here. Random thoughts or emotions manifest as environmental dynamics. Racing worries might spawn chaotic swirls. Calm acceptance smooths them into flowing currents. Now that's the mechanics. Let's look at the energy dynamics. The raw energy is neutral but responsive. It flows like a high voltage river. Absorption, she can draw it in to recharge, mending micro tears in her psyche, sharpening senses, or even gaining temporary insight, sudden clarity on problems that plagued her waking hours. We'll have expression and resonance, risk and cost, and a whole bunch of narrative potential energy. Now, what do we need next? Plot idea. Plot idea is she seeks out. Damn it! She seeks out comfort in sleep through a lover. I'm gonna go with this plot line. Mostly rising with slight falls due to antagonist dogs. We have dogs as a bad guy. Why is that? While I was walking around, like I said, I slept on the sidewalk. I'm homeless right now. I've been told not to go to the Kroger parking lot at night to sleep on the bench. And at first I was like, man, you know what I'm saying? Because it was a pretty damn good bench. But I was walking over there tonight and there was this thing, it looked like a Doberman pinscher right over there. So I said, luckily, good old Doberman let me back off and go somewhere else. So, like I said, I'm not going to scroll back upward. We're going to move forward with this thing. The story nugget was that this woman does not have sleep, and she ends up becoming a ball of raw energy. All kind of stuff could have been said in prose, in story, and prose, and whatever. But the next thing we need is plot. And I kind of like the idea of plot idea as well as plot line. So we end up from that getting an arc, veil-bound comfort. I'll talk about veils in a second. I don't know how many other people use that, but it was based on an idea through a lot of biblical reading on the veils of the cross, where things are kind of covered up. Horrific things are kind of covered up, especially because of the crucifixion, the veils of the cross. So veils are like metaphysically, epistemologically real coverings over your mind and brain. These arcs, the premise set up, exhausted by relentless insomnia, she returns night after night to the bed as her portal in the raw veil, the surging sensory charged realm born from her sleep debt. She begins deliberately seeking comfort in the form of a lover, a resonant figure shaped from the energy itself, perfectly attuned to her desires. He, I'll say he, manifests with warm electric skin, a voice like low thunder, and an instinctive understanding of exactly how to soothe her frayed nerves through touch, presence, and shared exploration of the Vale's wonders. Each visit starts as pure relief, rising waves of intimacy and vitality that recharge her more effectively than any real-world sleepover could. We have some rising action through nights 1 and 3. Nights 4 to 7, a deepening bond. Slight falls, antagonistic dog. So she's just going to have to kind of walk around at night. Talk about the antagonist. Interrupting the steady rise of the dogs. Feral, shadow-furred entities born from the jagged remnants of her insomnia. Barking doubts, intrusive memories, and external stressors given snarling form. They aren't mindless monsters. They're persistent disruptors that hunt in packs. Dogs are after her. They first appear as distant howls that fracture the Vale's home, causing brief drops in energy and momentary disconnection from her lover. During one intense encounter, a pair burst through a swirling eddy, snapping at heels and scattering the luminous threads. It's kind of fun. So, again, using our curriculum, like fragments pros, because we're not yet at blank paper. We're going to build a bridge to blank paper, like the Scientologists that we are. Fragments of prose. She wept steadily. Just if you can't think of anything on the prose fragment, you stop. She wept steadily through the first true merging, tears sliding hot and silent down her glowing cheeks, while his hands, you see this? You see how we work out the structure. We work out the mechanics, dynamics. We work out the plot idea. We work out the plot line. We started with the story nugget, which is the premise and the idea. And it's like we could just tell all that stuff to somebody. We could print that in a book. But there's another element there that keeps us going as writers, and that's the prose, which is kind of sort of like turning all this into really fucking long form poetry. She wept steadily through the first true merging, tears sliding hot and silent down her glowing cheeks, while his hands mapped the trembling length of her. The raw energy held her open, every sob a pulse that drew more of the Vale's current into her core. She wept steadily through the luminous nest they had shaped together, curled against his chest while fractals of gold and indigo drifted overhead. Now watch this. Prose fragment. Wherefore they held steadfast. Pair that with a cadence. God, I am so sorry about the traffic. This is my life currently. Cadence is smooth. Just call it smooth, see what happens. Just call it a smooth cadence. Let's see what it does. They held steadfast. Oh, no, it didn't. It put it in front of home. Prose fragment. Steadfast. They held. together. Okay, what is this? Cadential cadence, cadential style. Try to program it in. I'm gonna say alliterative and bombastic. Let's see what happens. I can't stand alliteration. Steadfast they held together, a thunderous tangle of tempestuous tenacity. Bound breast to blazing breast, they clung in cataclysmic cadence. His powerful plunges pounding pure primal power into her pulse core. now, now grammar, style, subject, object, verb, which is wrong. 50-50. Let's see what happens. It's usually subject, I think it's subject, verb, object. She him held steadfast. Tears her cheek traced steadily. Energy raw them both enveloped. He her deeply filled, rhythm smooth and strong. Bodies there together pressed, cadence unbroken. Who does that sound like, Ezra Pound? Shadow dogs distance barked, yet them they